That night, the wind from the shores of Stagira did more than blow. It trembled, as if it knew a child had just been born. Not a soldier, not a king, but someone who would shake the very foundation of how the world thinks. From childhood, he was never a worshiper of wonders. He was a hunter of explanations. While other children played in the mud, he stared at the sky and asked, "Why is everything in order?" That question became the ember that burned in his mind every night. He hungered, not for power, but for understanding. Athens welcomed him like a stage of fire. At Plato's academy, the debate hall was no safe place. Every argument was a bullet, and young Aristotle didn't step in to hide. He stepped in to shake the foundations of thought itself. He sliced theories with logic, challenged his own teacher, skinned sacred ideas bare. Nothing escaped his sharp gaze. To Aristotle, the world was not a mystical riddle, but a map waiting to be read. He built deductive logic like an iron fortress. He wove a structure of thought that no longer relied on miracle, but on order, cause, and proof. In lecture halls lit by torchlight, he created something stronger than any sword, a new way for humankind to reach the truth. Time marched on, civilizations fell, cities burned, but his legacy never died. It seeped silently into language, law, science, technology, as if modern thought itself stood upon the invisible fingers of one man. They call it ancient knowledge, but every time we make a decision, debate, or seek truth, we're playing the game invented 2,000 years ago by Aristotle. In the marble halls of Athens, torch flames quivered like the heartbeat of an era. Philosophers sat in a circle, their words flying like arrows, and in the center stood a young man, unarmed except for logic. Aristotle did not shout, he did not threaten, he arranged. Premise 1, Premise 2, Conclusion. The world unfolded before him, not as foggy belief, but as an unbreakable chain of cause and effect. If A, then B, if B, then C. That night, logic was no longer just a tool. It became a weapon, a system to conquer chaos with structure, to defeat rhetoric with reason. Centuries passed, civilizations changed, but his formula did not. Politicians used it in debates. Judges used it in courts. Computer scientists built it into machine language. Modern AI was born from Aristotle's syllogisms. Ironically, many of us live inside the system he built without realizing it. Whenever someone asks why, and we answer because, we're echoing the symphony of logic he composed 2 millennia ago. That night was not just a discussion, it was a battlefield. No swords, only logic, and Aristotle stepped into the arena like a gladiator of thought. In a silent marble hall, Plato sat on his high chair. His finest pupils circled the room. They were ready. Aristotle was nobody, just a student from Stagira. But that night, history would not remember him as a student. One by one, the philosophers hurled their arguments like flaming spears. Aristotle didn't dodge. He let them strike, then turned each one with structure and reason. If this is true, he said calmly, then that is false. And if that is false, your belief collapses. The room boiled. They were used to myth, to rhetoric, to flowery words drifting like smoke. But that night, smoke was cut by an invisible blade, logic. Plato listened. His students fell silent. Under flickering torches, Aristotle laid the foundation for a new world, a world that bowed not to belief, but to structure of thought. That night was not the end of debate. It was the birth of a new battlefield, a war of ideas, one formula, 3 steps. 2,000 years later, that formula still pulses at the core of human reasoning. He called it syllogism. If all men are mortal, Socrates is a man. Therefore, Socrates is mortal. A simple sentence, yet a time bomb. It transformed thought from mystery into mechanism. Syllogism wasn't poetry. It was a truth machine. With 3 steps, major premise, minor premise, conclusion, Aristotle forged a way of thinking that could shatter empty rhetoric. No loud voices, no blood. Just a chain of logic that, once spoken, is hard to break. And here's the secret. Syllogism crept into everything, law, science, even the way computer algorithms work today. Every if, then, command is Aristotle whispering across the centuries. In a world ruled by myths and gods, one word could mean death. Why? And Aristotle dared to speak it aloud. Greece was full of temples. Priests controlled the narrative. Every question had a mystical answer. But Aristotle wasn't satisfied with, because the gods willed it. He wanted to know how the world truly works. He separated story from cause, myth from evidence. When others spoke of Zeus's thunderbolts, he spoke of air and heat. When they spoke of fate, he spoke of structure. People called him mad, dangerous. But slowly his way of thinking spread, like a spark growing in a dry field. Every strike of a gavel today is an echo of a philosopher's voice from 2,000 years ago. In a modern courtroom, arguments rise and fall not by who shouts the loudest, but by who is most logical. And that logic wasn't born yesterday, it was born in Athens. Premise, evidence, conclusion. What was once philosophy became the foundation of modern law. When prosecutors build arguments, they walk the path Aristotle first drew. When lawyers counter, they use the same structure, cause and effect. Law is not just rules, it is logic with a voice. What do Aristotle and supercomputers have in common? The answer, logic. One ancient formula became the language of the future. Syllogism was born from Aristotle's quill. Centuries later, binary logic was born from circuits. But both speak the same language. If A is true, then B happens. Computers are not magic. They are machines of logic, translating cause and effect into lines of code. All of it, rooted in a structure of thought built 2 millennia ago. From Athens torches to glowing monitors, from quill to silicon chips, his legacy pierces through time. Words can be bullets, but logic is a weapon of mass persuasion. The wise know, a well-built argument can be deadlier than 1,000 swords. Aristotle understood this early. He taught that logic can rule the masses, not through shouting, but through structure. Political debates today stand on the stage he built. Every piece of rhetoric is framed like a syllogism. Every promise has a chain of cause. Every narrative, even when twisted, is rooted in his art of thinking. Every scientific discovery begins not with an answer, but with a logical question. Why does something happen? That simple question is the foundation of science, but the way we answer it, through cause and effect, evidence and conclusion, belongs to Aristotle. Modern science stands on the structure of his thought. The scientific method was born from the deductive and inductive logic he pioneered. Without it, telescopes would just be glass and laboratories empty rooms. We think Aristotle is just a figure in history, but the truth is, he's still alive. Not in body, but in the way we think. Millennia have passed, empires have fallen, civilizations have risen and crumbled. But Aristotle's legacy is not buried in a museum. It lives quietly inside every modern mind. Every time we form a reason, weigh a choice, or draw a conclusion, we are speaking with his shadow, not a statue, not a text, but his pattern of thought. Aristotle never needed a throne. He chose a place far more eternal, inside the way humanity understands the world.